Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin Bubble News channel. So this is the gold rush for Bitcoin because institutions, regulators, and banks are all wanting to get in. Some have already gotten in. This week, the biggest bank in Brazil was in the news. Banco Itaú, which is the biggest bank in South America, has said that their users can buy, sell, and store Bitcoin with them. What if JP Morgan told all of its users, hey, you can buy, sell, and store Bitcoin with us? That's what took place in Brazil. Okay, all of these dominoes will fall every 3 months for the next 40 months. More banks will start to accept Bitcoin. There will be more Wall Street companies. More institutions are going to step up. It's likely that more businesses will look like some here. In a recent conversation with Michael Saylor for Bitcoin News, ideas were shared about what needs to happen for Bitcoin to become more popular and its price to go up even more. Bitcoin is selling between $1.60 and $6,000. It has gone up 1% in the last 24 hours and 2% in the last week. Saylor stresses that Bitcoin will be widely used because it is a better form of money. He says that Bitcoin is the first built money system that is meant to do better than both gold and fiat currencies. Saylor thinks it's only a matter of time before formal adoption happens. He says that Bitcoin will move toward that value as more institutions see its value as a way to protect against inflation and keep its worth. Bitcoin will always be the best way to put your money to work. It will always be the smart thing to do. Bitcoin is a form of digital money. So once you know what capital is, you know that it is a way to store value and power the economy. If I could store money digitally and move it between any 2 billion computers or any 2 million businesses at any time, and if I could program it using the most advanced servers, then AIs could trade Bitcoin with each other. But when a billion AIs trade Bitcoin with each other, they won't trade buildings. They're not going to trade gold bars or copper notes. They won't want to trade stock in Apple or Amazon with each other. They are going to want to trade digital money with each other. They'll want to buy and sell Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has a half-life of forever because it's digital and deflationary, right? It's permanent cash that will never die. In that case, you ask yourself, what do I want to own? I'd like to own perfect money in cash. When you look at it mathematically, Bitcoin has been, for the last 4 years, it's given back 4 to 5 times as much as the SP 250. And it's been 4 to 5x unstable. It changes a lot because it's a free cash market. Anyone, anywhere in the world, at any time of the day can say anything they want on the global capital market as often as they want. And the technical features of it make it work well. What do you think will happen in 20 or 30 years? From now on, Bitcoin will be twice as good as everything else. Right now, Bitcoin is 5 times better than the next best thing, but when Bitcoin gets to be the size of the SP 500 in 20 or 30 years, it might only be twice as good. But it will always be better. Because it is all digital. It doesn't have the physical risks that come with real estate or land. It's not problematic from a cultural point of view like art is. It doesn't have the business liabilities of equity, the political liabilities of currency, or the credit risk of debt. Okay, when you buy Bitcoin, you're getting the best thing. When should you get something else? You should buy something else if it's better. There isn't anything better though. Now there's something better. After this, nothing better will come along. To make sense of the trade, you keep selling the weaker thing to buy the stronger thing. A lot of money was spent by MicroStrategy to make this happen. With billions of dollars in debt and billions of dollars in the bank, we will also keep buying Bitcoin and selling things to get cash for Bitcoin. We might sell an equity or investment instrument every once in a while. You should never change your plan though, because Bitcoin will always be the best thing. It only matters if it's 10 times better, 5 times better, or 2 times better than the next best thing. Those don't really matter though, do they? No matter what, the answer for direction is the same. I'm surprised by how quickly Bitcoin is being used and how well it's being received by the government. I didn't think we would have made so much progress in areas like spot ETFs when I started in 2020. I mean, the spot ETF was a huge bonus. A second bonus is fair value accounting. Third, the political climate and the push for banks to be able to store Bitcoin is a very nice surprise. A fourth surprise, and a good one at that, is that Trump has said all good things about Bitcoin. But it's not a bad idea. In fact, this is how wealth is changing because of technology. We'll go from having 0.1% of the world's capital to having 20% of it, or 30% of the digital world's capital. It makes sense that it's happening. Capital markets, money, the economy, and technology are all things that people who care about those things should like. Whatever the case, when it does happen. When you see. Along with the crypto lobby, the Wall Street lobby, And the banking lobby, the Bitcoin lobby, made a lot of noise about how banks should accept Bitcoin and keep their own keys. Yes? Really? Think about that. The fact that Bitcoin will actually become a payment network and a reserve asset for the world's banks is pretty cool. That being said, we're not quite there yet, but you can see the signs. The most progressive leaders are starting to understand that this is what's best for the country. Most of the time, everyone thinks it's impossible the year before the S-curve starts, right? On the front page of the New York Times in 1903, before the Wright brothers flew, it said, "Experts show why flight is impossible will never be achieved." But AI has been around since I was at MIT, and Apple pointed out that Siri is, well, more than 10 years old. Still, Siri and Alexa's early versions were only used to pick your music streaming service's mix. And it was really only with ChatGPT-4 that you saw this first huge thing that could be sold. In 1 month, they went from having no people to having 100 million. Yeah, and people who didn't believe in AI before used that and are now believers. They say, oh, I see, that works. Spot ETFs are the best thing about digital wealth, and they were allowed in January of this year. Every day, hundreds of millions of dollars flow into them, and trades worth $1 billion happen. That means $350 billion worth of trades happen every year on those ETF layers in the first year, right? That will only speed things up. Along those lines, I believe that spot ETFs sped up the use of digital money by businesses and institutions. And companies like BlackRock buy hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin every day. In fact, these ETFs are used by big hedge funds to hold $1 billion or $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Another thing you should know